Hey, it's me, James, and in this video, I'm going to be doing a lightning round oracle card pull for every zodiac sign for Taurus season. So stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in and joining me for this video. If this is your first time here, I'd like to say welcome. And if you're a returning viewer and visitor, I'd like to say welcome back. As I said in the opening, this is going to be another lightning round oracle card reading for every zodiac sign, as we have now been into Taurus season the last few days. So I'm just going to jump right in. The deck that I'm going to be using for this session is going to be my very first public offering, and that was or is the Neophyte Dream Oracle cards. And so if you're new here and you don't know the story of this deck, I had a dream when a couple of years ago. This was during the time of COVID, when COVID first started, and I had a dream, and in the dream I was holding a deck of cards, and I was moving through traffic in the street with this deck of cards in my hand. And so then the dream shifted, and I was talking with a man who said that he was going to be creating an oracle deck that he wanted the public to use. And as I was waking up, the word neophyte came to my mind. So I took all of that symbology to mean that I was to create an oracle card deck for the public. And its name was going to be Neophyte. So I call it Dream Oracle cards because that is how the inspiration for the dream came to me. And so I work with it much like decoding a dream. My claim to fame, besides reading cards, is that I was well known in my circles for being able to either interpret or analyze or decode a dream, depending on the word you want to use. But that was one of my claims to fame. So I kind of just meshed the two, the idea about being able to work with dreams and work with cards, and Neophyte as a result. So I'm very excited about it. But the reason why I'm not working with the Re-Language Affirmation Oracle cards that I have for the previous two sessions is because over the course of time, between the last session and this session, I was notified by Make Playing Cards, which is the company I use to print the cards, but I also sell the cards through their marketplace. So whenever I sell a deck, they notify me to let me know that a sale has been made. And actually, I was notified over the course of a month that somebody had purchased Neophyte. And so when I get notification that a deck has been purchased, it kind of inspires me or gets me to work with the deck again. So I've been, really focusing on the Re-Language Affirmation Oracle because it's the most recent deck that I've made. And so this was just, I think, a nudge, nudge, wink, wink from the universe to say, hey, don't forget about this deck. So I'm excited to see what messages it's going to present for each of you who are watching. So now there's another thing I want to say about this. So as I'm going through the signs, what you could do to make a 3-card reading, because I'm only going to draw 1 card for each sign, is that if you know what your sun sign is, your moon sign is, and your rising sign, you could take the messages from each of those cards and create a 3-card reading, right? So if you know what that is, just be on the lookout for 3 possible messages. And if you only know what your sun sign is, that will be enough, right? Okay, so going in, we're going to start with Taurus since we're in Taurus season and work all the way around through all the signs until Aries. So I have the deck on hand. I'm going to take a moment to shuffle the cards. And as I shuffle the cards, and I'm doing it so you can see me on camera shuffling the cards, as I shuffle the cards, I'm just focusing on the intention that we're going to pull a card that's going to be most helpful and beneficial for every zodiac sign for this Taurus season. So like, what would be the focus? What would be the intention? What would be the advice or guidance for each of us as we experience this Taurus season? So now I'm going to lay the cards on the table and shuffle my other ways when I'm working with oracle cards. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the deck because that's something I do in my own practice with cards. And I'm reassembling them into one pile. And so just as I've done in the past, I'm going to draw a card from the top of the deck, one for each sign. So starting off with Taurus. So for Taurus, we have, okay, so the card we have for Taurus is Courting Dragons. And so when this card turns up, it really just talks about working with taming the beast within, yeah? So the dragon for me is a symbol that can represent breathing fire, you know, and so it represents like being mindful of how angry or fired up you get about a particular thing or a particular issue, particular experience, that kind of thing. And so instead of courting that, what can you do to tame that, right? So for Taurus people, it would be a matter of being mindful about what gets you fired up. Now that could be fired up in a good way, right? So what are you passionate about? Is there a cause, issue, something that gets you fired up? And if so, in a good sense, what are you willing to do to act on that, right? Because courting in a positive sense would be, you know, forming a deeper bond or connection to that, right? We're working on getting to know that aspect of ourselves better. That's what courting's all about, right? So it could be that. It could also be, as I'm saying that, the word courting makes me think of like the court of public opinion or something of a legal nature or a sense of justice, all those kinds of things. Now, sometimes people get fired up about those issues as well, right? You know, the idea about justice and conversely injustice, right? So it's a matter of like, what do you think is fair and right and just, and what do you see or perceive as being senses of injustice, right? And what are you willing to do about that? If you see it, and if it gets you fired up, what are you willing to do to help maybe solve that problem or help correct that issue in your own unique, specific way as an individual, right? So there's that, right? So, you know, what are you fired up about? What are you passionate about? But like I said initially, like breathing fire is like being angry, right? So how can you work with the things, the conditions, the scenarios, the circumstances, the people who get you to breathe fire, meaning get angry. And then, you know, you as a result, if you're breathing fire, right, fire comes from the dragon's mouth, then it could be about like watching your words, especially when you're angry, right? So there's two ways to look at courting dragons. So that is the message for Taurus, for Taurus season. So now I'm going to draw for Gemini. Oh, I love this card. Okay, so for Gemini, we have the big screen. Okay, so now the big screen is a card that talks about taking a look at the bigger picture, right? So for Gemini, for Taurus season, you're being asked to take a look at your life, right? The idea about the big screen is about in dream decoding or dream analysis, the idea of like the big screen is, you know, getting you to see the bigger picture of your life, you know. So it's about like you taking a look at your life and what's the bigger picture or what's the story of your life, right? So that's the big screen, right? Now the word screen can also be a pun for screening. You know, is there, you know, the possibility of, and I have to be careful here because my disclaimer is I'm not a medical professional, so I can't offer any diagnosis or prognosis, but this could also be like what undergoing some type of screening, right? So it could just be a matter of like I'm undergoing a screening and I'm waiting for the results, so then I know what I need to do going forward with that process or that concern or issue, right? But the big screen generally means I'm taking a bigger look, or I'm looking at the bigger picture of my life and life experience, right? And I will say this further. Understanding that your life is a production, right? So every person in your production is playing a role or a part. And conversely, you are playing a role or part in their productions of their life stories, right? So what's your role, right? This could be getting you to look at the role that you are playing in your life right now, or the role that you're playing in the lives of others. And do you like the role that you're playing? If not, you're the director of your own production, and you can yell cut, right? And then, you know, reevaluate what your role is, and then, decide what new role you'd like to play. So that is what I'm going to offer to those who are Gemini for this Taurus season with that big screen. Okay, so for Cancer, we have caged. So now going with the idea that for me, that Cancer can represent the home and family. So this might be those who feel like they want to spend more time in their home environments, right? I'm thinking of the idea of like being a homebody, right? So that would be maybe the positive sense. Or it could be in the more challenging sense, like you're being encouraged like to get out more, right? But when caged comes up, it talks about the ways that we limit and restrict ourselves, right? So this could be self-imposed, which I just mentioned, or the ways that we are limited and restricted by others, right? And either way, Cage is saying, like, what would you be willing to do to kind of free yourself up? This is a time to kind of come up with a freedom plan, so to speak, and what would that look like for you? But Cage is really just talking about the ways that we kind of limit ourselves, restrict ourselves, hold ourselves back, And I'm thinking like it could be a matter of working through some kind of pain, hurt, or wound. I just know from my own personal experience that when I feel like I want to kind of take a step back, or I want to kind of sequester myself or withdraw in any kind of way, right? And so this could be a card of withdrawal, that I'm doing it because on some level I want to avoid some kind of pain or hurt, or I don't want to experience a pain, hurt, or wound I've experienced in the past previously. I don't want to re-experience that. So I kind of close myself off, keep myself back, that kind of thing. So I'm seeing that as the gist of the caged card, and that is for Cancer. Okay, so moving on, we have Leo next. And so for Leo, this is interesting. So for Leo, we have the Going Quantum card. So this is a real metaphysical type card, and it usually represents like expanding your awareness. It's similar to the big screen that we looked at earlier, where I talked about looking at the bigger picture. This is similar to that, but it's an expansion of awareness, right? Very metaphysical. So it usually talks about going like either 4D, 5D. We live in a 3D world, right? But it represents like getting some kind of download or information that gets you to see other dimensions or experience other dimensions. So you go 4D, that's, the next dimension up, 5D, the next dimension after that, so forth and so on. So there is that as a possibility. So that's more like towards one's spiritual growth and development, like seeing that there's more to this life than this physical 3D experience, right? So I'm also looking at the image, and what I notice, and I'll hold this closer, is that beyond the figure and the orbs of light, there is a clock in the background. So this could just be somewhat like the big screen if you're taking a look at your life, right? At the bigger picture of your life. You may be either considering where you're at this point in time, right? Or that there's something about time, playing in the background of whatever your experience is, right? So what's coming to me in the moment is like you could be at a place in your life where you're considering what you've done over time, right? With your life. And do you feel like at this point in time that you've either accomplished what you want to accomplish, that you appreciate where you're at in life, that kind of thing? Or do you feel like you're behind the times, right? Do you feel like on some level based on where you're at? And I'm only saying this as a person who is 56, right? When I started these lightning round sessions, I started it with Pisces season, and I was doing it on my birthday of all days to start it, right? And I was 56 then. I just turned 56. So in that kind of respect, you could be looking at maybe your age, stage in life, and feeling like you're behind the times, like you are not where you wanted to be, or you haven't accomplished everything you wanted to accomplish, that kind of thing. So how can you work through that? How can you accept that in a way so you can move through it, right? The first part of becoming aware is accepting what is or where you're at so you can move through either the thoughts or the feelings that are associated with it, right? So there could be that. It's about something having to do with time. Now, I will say this, is that if we're talking quantum, you just may be coming to some understanding about time as a thing, like understanding that time is not linear, right? I had an experience that got me to see time as not being linear, but more about like fluid, right? Like time streams, you know, and that the idea of like um, things happening in parallels with time. So it just may be a matter of you actually looking at your perception of time and getting an expanded awareness about what time actually is. So that is the idea about going quantum, and that was for Leo. For Virgo, we have, ooh, I like this. Okay, and I think this is a right and perfect card for Virgo people. And I'll explain why when I talk more about the card. So the card is multiple viewpoints, right? So the gist of this card is really just being open to other possibilities, other ways of looking at a particular issue, concern, experience. Yeah, the windows, we look either in or out. So the windows can symbolically represent our outlook, right? Our outlook on life, our view of life. And it's a reminder that not everyone looks at the same experience the same way, right? We all have our own filters as human beings, right? And based on our own beliefs, our own life experiences, they tend to color how we look at life, generally speaking, right? So it's a matter of understanding that not everyone views the same experience in the same way, right? But it could also be being open to seeing things from different perspectives, right? And I love the image about the windows being all over the buildings, you know, that kind of thing. So again, it's about how are we choosing, right? Everything's a matter of choice. How are we choosing to view a particular experience and understanding that not everyone views something the same way. But I'm thinking like more importantly, maybe taking a look or gaining different perspectives about a particular experience or challenge that you are going through, right? That kind of thing. But that's usually the gist of multiple viewpoints. And that was for Virgo. So now the reason why I said this is a perfect card for Virgo is because Virgo people, generally speaking, this is a generalization, right, tend to be very methodical and analytical, and they're really great at observation, right? Another aspect of this card is about observation, yeah? So that is the reason why I said this was a great card for Virgo. Now, I will confess that I have aspects of Virgo in my chart, so I know what I'm talking about based on personal experience. Remember that human filter, right? So that is based on my experience of being Virgo or having Virgo tendencies, right? So again, that is multiple viewpoints. Okay, next up we have Libra. And, oh, I love this. Okay, so for Libra, we have room with a view. And what I love about this for Libra people is that Venus, if I remember correctly, is the ruling planet of Libra. And that's all about beauty, right? The aspects of beauty. But what I love about this is that this is a card about self-improvement. So now if you look at the image, here we have in the background, we have a room that is empty. And then we have pictures, framed pictures of what the room could be or could become, right? So this is about improvement or self-improvement. If in the literal, it could be the actual beautification of a space. So it could be for some people, this is a season to do some decluttering, do some redecorating, do some improvement of a space that you are actually going to be spending time in. But I tend to go bigger picture, like this is like picture this kind of thing where we're working on improving ourselves, right? So it could just be a matter of going with the Venus aspect of Libra is about how can you see the beauty or the potential, right? It reminds me of when my brother was into interior design. He doesn't do that as much these days. But when he was an interior designer, he had this knack for entering into a space and seeing its potential and possibility, like looking beyond how the room looked in the moment, and he would walk in and be able to see what the room could become, right? So I'm seeing him in that manner, right? So this could just be a matter of, seeing the possibilities and the potentialities either in yourself at this time, or in an actual space, or just with either other people. Libra is in astrology associated with relationships, so seeing the potentials in other people, right? um, or that you are either undergoing a process of self-improvement, or that you are facilitating a process of self-improvement for other people, right? But again, this is just about seeing the potential and the possibilities uh, in terms of improving uh, and self-improvement, or improving a space, right? So that is room with a view. Now, as I was about to put the card down, we had that word view, right? So again, this card could be about viewpoint, perspective, outlook, perception, all those ideas that come with the word view, right? So it could just be a matter of, just like the previous card, this could be just asking you to consider your viewpoint on something, or your outlook on something, or your perspective on something. And does that need to change? Is that the thing that needs to be improved upon, right? Okay, so that is room with a view, right? Right, so it's telling me like room and space for taking a look at your viewpoint, your perspective on something. Okay, so that was Libra. Next we have Scorpio. Yeah, I say this all the time, and you probably say he says it with every card, but it's true. I just love the cards that I make, so I love this card. So here we have Ascension. Okay, so that is for Scorpio, and what I love about this for Scorpio, Scorpio is the sign that talks about the mysterious, right? Mysteries of life and death, right? Like what lies beyond this physical plane. And I love the image because here we have a person who's being beamed up by a UFO, right? So this is about ascension in that regard. So if you believe in aliens and UFO, this could actually be the study of UFOlogy. I think I'm saying that right. Or the study of, life beyond planet Earth, right? Like, when I was a kid, so, this is going to help me explain this a lot. When I was a kid, I would look up into the stars, at night, and just sit with the idea that there's more to this universe than just planet Earth. There's more to life than just us. I would look up at the stars and go like, we just can't be it, right? As vast as the universe is, this cannot be the only life in it, right? Talking about the human life, or life on planet Earth, because there's other life forms than just humans, right? We can't be it, and I used to think as a child that it would be arrogant to think that we're all there is, right? So that's just my perspective, my viewpoint based on what I believe to be true. But even as a child, I would think that, and I still think that as an adult, right? So this could just be a matter of, again, the idea of ascension is like I'm moving into a space where I have maybe a more illuminated perspective, enlightened perspective, an expanded awareness, much like the Going Quantum card I talked about earlier, right? You're seeing beyond this world. I think there's a theme here. It's about being willing to expand our awareness, right? Big screen and Going Quantum, and now this card. Being willing to expand our awareness, or maybe just getting to a place where we are sitting with the possibility that there's more to life than what we're experiencing, right? So there's ascension is playing on the word ascended in terms of awareness, right? So this could also be a card that talks about connection with your guides, right? Because in dream theory, at least for me as a dream decoder, the idea of aliens can represent like spirit guides, angelic beings, things that don't operate in this physical world, right? That the world beyond, right? So that could be a nod for the spiritual world, right? And getting access to that, right? Getting downloads or getting information from your guides, your angels, you know, that kind of thing, right? And sometimes people who are in close bond with their guides, or, you know, who are channelers, will talk about or receive information about, you know, the spirit world, what it is, uh, what the potentials are within it, those kinds of things. You know, they're getting more universal type messages. That's probably what a better way of putting that. So it could just be a matter of, you know, maybe receiving downloads about the world as it is, or something of a more universal nature. And the universal means that it applies to humanity as a whole, right? So there could be that. Now I'm looking at the image and seeing what else do I want to say about this, because I feel like there's something else I want to say. So I talked about the aliens. Yeah, okay. I had to say the word aliens again. So the idea here with the idea about aliens, it could be like dealing with something that is considered foreign to you, right? Because aliens can represent something that's foreign, something that's strange, something that's unusual, you know, that kind of thing. So it could just be a matter of gaining a perspective about something that you consider to be either foreign to you, like a foreign concept, foreign theory, foreign idea, or, you know, something that you're dealing with. It could also be, you know, embracing the things that are quirky about you, like, you know, so the things that other people might seem weird, going with the alien thing, you know, and then you're embracing that. You're learning to accept that as parts of yourself. Going back to like the very first card, I talked about courting dragons, right? You know, sometimes we have our not so nice side, you know, and being willing to embrace that, not to kind of create distance with that, right? I'm coming back to the idea of a courting dragon is really about being willing to become more intimate with those aspects of ourselves, rather than what we are encouraged to do sometimes in spiritual circles, and is create distance and resistance to that, right? How can we embrace those things about ourselves and maybe make them more strengths, turn them into something positive rather than viewing them as something negative, right? And again, that's the idea about viewpoint, perspective, yeah? So I'm tying a lot of things here as I'm talking out loud, which is one of the reasons why I love doing what I do with card readings, right? Because I hear myself say things and it introduces another idea, or it kind of threads something else back in, right? So that's what I'm seeing with the idea of ascension. And as I'm saying that, I'm still feeling like there's something else I wanted to say. Oh, yeah. So this could also be a nod to dealing with a sense of alienation, right? And that goes back to caged, right? I love this because they're bringing other cards back in. So the idea about caged could be a form of like how I and the collective we separate ourselves from other people who are not like us, right? So it could just be a matter of how can we be willing to embrace the differences in other people, just as we are willing to embrace aspects of ourselves, yeah? That's what I'm seeing here, maybe with ascension, yeah? So that is for Scorpio. For Sagittarius, we have, you know I was going to say it, I love this card. I love the image on this card. So here we have traveling the world. And I loved how it comes off the heels of ascension, because now we have in the image, we have an astronaut, and we have him standing on the road. So this is the road to life, the path in life. And then we have all these other planets, right, that are hovering in the air. I just love this image. So this is really, the astronaut is a pun for being an explorer. So for Sagittarians, and I love this because Sagittarius is the sign that's associated with religion and philosophy, right? And also being the outdoorsy person. Now, my rising sign is in Sagittarius, so this goes back to my encouragement to, if you know what your sun sign is, your moon sign is, your rising sign, how you can create a 3-card reading. So this is one of my cards because my rising sign is Sagittarius. But Sagittarians tend to be very adventurous type people, so they say, you know, very outdoorsy type people, you know, people who like to travel, right? And travel, not just local travel or short distance travel. This is usually a sign like long distance travel, being able to see foreign lands, right? Sagittarians are the people who love to explore other cultures, right? Again, just what I said on the heels of ascension, right? It's really being reinforced with this card, right? So it's about, you know, getting on the open road. So it could be literal travel. So you know, you may be on the road this season, right? And so, you know, you plan accordingly. It could just be a matter of, but also maybe in the course of your travels, setting aside some time to explore, you know, where you're at, Sometimes, in my past when I've traveled for business and really didn't have enough time to kind of explore uh, the land where I was at, right? So that was unfortunate, right? But so it could just be a matter of like if you're like me and you're traveling for business, or there's a clear intention or purpose to the excursion, maybe finding some time to have an adventure, taking a look, maybe exploring, right? That's because that's again what astronauts do. Um, yeah, so there's that. But it could just be also too like you are just moving beyond or wanting to move beyond your everyday experience, and you're feeling like at this point in life there's got to be more that I could explore, and you want to do that. Now that could be literally again, but that could also be metaphorically, right? But again, this is traveling the worlds, and this is for Sagittarius. Okay, next up we have Capricorn. So for Capricorn we have, okay, so the card I have for you is energy work. So now this card for me can represent the literal aspects of energy work. So this could be, energy healers. I'm a Reiki practitioner, so I tend to think of that first. But that is not the only energy healing modality or technique that's out there. I also think about healing touch or quantum touch. But again, because of my experience, I tend to go with Reiki first. So that could just be a matter of working on doing energy work in the literal sense, right? It could also be about being reminded about that, what are you putting your energy into at this point in time? And is it working out for you, right? I'm just using the words on the card to riff off on, right? So again, just be mindful of what are you putting your energy into. And it reminds me of, if you're a tarot fluent, it reminds me of the Seven of Pentacles. And if you're not, in the image of the card, there is a man who is resting on a garden hoe, and he's looking at the results of the work that he's put in, right? So the gist of that card for me can mean, putting in your time, energy, resources into a situation, and you're seeing it grow and develop. And you're also evaluating it for the return on the investment of your time, energy, and resources. I want to say that with this card. So this is just a matter of evaluating where you're putting your energy, and are you getting the return on that investment. Right? So that is what I want to say with energy work and with Capricorn. Next up we have Aquarius. Oh, okay. So here we have elevation, and I had a feeling, because I've been working with this deck myself in my own personal practice, because I pull cards every day for myself. And so because of that sale, that purchase, it got me into working with the deck for myself, and I recently pulled this card. So when elevation comes up, do you see a theme? If you look at the image, and I'll hold it really closely, there is a woman who is looking down. Yeah, she's right here, and she's looking down. Again, we have this idea about perspective, right? This is heightened perspective, right? Being able to either rise above a particular challenge, or you're looking down at, when you're looking down on something, we are getting a bird's eye view, so to speak, right? Because being up in the air, right? Bird's eye view. And as a result, we get to see the situation from a different perspective, right? So I think there's a commonality in terms of an overall message that is, again, I think for this season, we're being encouraged to pay attention to how we see things, our outlook, our viewpoints, our perspectives, and do we need to change them in any way, right? Are we willing to see beyond the ways that we normally see things, right? Are we willing to look beyond that, right? Is there a way that we can gain a different perspective, right? Are we willing to have a different perspective or outlook? That's the first thing. Are we willing, right? But I think there's a theme here, right? So again, elevation is about, a heightened perspective, right? Being able to look at your situation from a different perspective, and you got to be willing to give yourself some distance, right, to step back so you can see it differently, right? So there is that. Now in the image too, there's a moon behind the woman, so this could just be a matter of being led or guided by your intuition. The moon is a symbol for me that represents intuition, right? So it could be a matter of, if you are gaining a different perspective on your life circumstances, conditions, experiences, right? It may be that your intuition is supporting you because it's behind the woman. Anything that I see as being behind someone could represent support because it's behind you, or it's in the background, right? And also, as I'm saying that, it could also be about subconscious awareness, right? So it could just be a matter of you are gaining perspective on things, but it's rooted in the subconscious. So this could be, as I'm saying that, this could be an important point in time to really pay attention to your dream, since this is a dream oracle, right? And the subconscious is the realm in which projects our dream narratives to us, right? Because our conscious awareness is at rest, right? So fully in the subconscious, right? So this could just be a matter of paying attention to more subconscious thoughts, feelings, or that you're going to get awareness that is residing in your subconscious and just waiting to present it to you when you are most open and receptive to it, right? And one way that we are most open and receptive, again, is our dreams, or maybe even a more meditative process, right? And as I'm saying that, there may be a link there on the image. There's a bridge here. So it could be the idea of like, it's extending something, or it's connected to something else, maybe further in the past, right? So it could be gaining a different perspective on maybe something that you had a prior experience of, right? And so much so that it kind of frees you up, it kind of moves you forward, right? Because the bridge in dream theory for me can represent reconciliation, or that we're bridging some kind of gap, right? So that is elevation, and that is for Aquarius. Next up, we have Pisces. Okay, so now this card is Light of Day. So now this is, I talked about with the previous card about subconscious awareness. This is conscious awareness, right? I liken this card to the sun in tarot because the woman is stepping through a door. So now doorways represents opportunities, right? So this may be an opportunity for illumination, for clarity, you know, because I think of all those things with the idea of light of day, right? If we're talking about the light of day, we're talking about a way or an experience of being able to see things clearly, right? When the sun is up in the daytime, you can see everything, right? Whereas conversely, when the moon is up, you can only see so much in the dark, right? So this represents, you know, moving into a space or a place, or having the opportunity to gain clarity about a particular situation, concern, experience, right? Again, this idea about conscious awareness, right? Becoming more illumined, more enlightened, more aware, right? So, but there's something that's going to be setting the stage for that as a possibility. Now, if I just go with the idea that this is about the sun in tarot, then this is also about experiencing happiness, satisfaction, fulfillment, those kinds of things. I also liken those to the sun card. But it can also just represent this idea about personal freedom, right? So there may be an opportunity for you to gain a greater sense of liberation, right? And if you want freedom, how? What's going to be the opportunity or the doorway or the gateway for achieving that sense of freedom, right? But again, so two things here with light of day. Again, about becoming more aware, conscious, enlightened, that kind of thing. But also gaining a greater sense of clarity about how we move through this thing we call life, yeah? So that, you know, having the opportunity presented to be able to do that. You know, but it could also be, you know, an opportunity to gain a greater sense of personal freedom or liberation, right? Because I'm hearing in my head A Whole New World, the song A Whole New World, right? So it could just be a matter of something being presented that is like stepping into a whole new world. So that is Light of Day, and that is Pisces. Last card is for Aries. And here we have another card that I thought, because it came up in my own personal polls, that what would I say if this came up on camera? And so here we have pure intention, right? So the image is of a unicorn. And so for me, the unicorn symbolizes intention, right? So for Aries people, this is a season to be really clear on your intentions as you move through experiences, right? What's the intention behind it? If you're taking an action, what's the intention behind the action? If you're having interaction with a person and you're having a conversation, what is the intention of the conversation, and what even more important, what's the intention behind the words you're using and how you're communicating, right? There's always an intention. Everything that we experience has an intention behind it. So this card is really just asking you to become more clear on what your intentions are. Now, there are a couple of other things I want to say. The fact that the unicorn has wings, wings symbolically represent this idea about spreading your wings and flying. So this could just be a matter of, metaphorically soaring. Like, again, soaring to new heights is the word that just came to me, or the phrase that just came to me, right? Soaring to new heights. What would you need to do so you can feel a sense of like, I'm moving beyond my current experience, right? I'm giving myself permission to believe that I have the courage and the confidence to do just that, right? To soar to new heights. Then the last thing I will say is that the unicorn has a horn, right, on its third eye. So this could just be a matter of being open to an expansion of awareness through your third eye, right? So the third eye is also known as our mind's eye. So this could just be a matter of imagination, right? If the idea of third eye and intuition and being psychic, because all those things are associated with the third eye, if that is too woo-woo for you, and I don't know how that could be that you would be here watching a video about oracle card pulls and we're talking about spirituality and moving beyond the ways that we experience this thing called life in the 3D sense. I couldn't imagine you being here if you held that perspective. But if you do, that's okay, right? No judgment, no shade, right? But if that is too woo-woo for you, then this could just be a matter of getting in touch with your imagination, right? If you want to soar to new heights and you want to experience new things, and if you want your life experience to be different than what it currently is, you have to be willing to imagine something different, right? And then you act in accordance to what you are imagining, right? What you are picturing in your mind, right? The idea here, like if you can picture it, if you can see it, you can achieve it, right? I know that's an expression, and I don't know who said it, and I can't give credit to it, but I know I've heard it said that way, right? So if you can see it, you can achieve it, but you have to be willing to see it, or be willing to see it differently if you want a different result, right? So that is what I want to impart to Aries, and on that note, we are going to wrap up this latest lightning round oracle card pull session for Taurus season. If you hung out with me this long, thank you so much. I hope you got the message, the right and perfect message that you needed to hear. I would love to know how you are going to move forward this season. So drop me a comment in the comment section below. Either the cards that resonated with you, the message that you got, or how you're going to take that message and apply it to your life as it currently is, right? So I would love to hear from you. Again, thank you so much for tuning in for this session with me. I'm James Himm Mitchell. And I look forward to sharing this space with you again in our next lightning round session. So until then, have a great day, have a great season, and I'll see you in the future. Take care.